And then you shift to the interior. Let's shift to the interior dimension of the collective. So the inside space of all of us sitting here today. What this community is about. What does peace mean for a community? Or what does peace mean just for our own? This is the relationship space. What does it mean to make peace in our relationships? And for example, if I get up in the morning and Ann and I have a fight, I feel crappy the entire day because I'm not at peace with her. This is the tough work of developing relationship skills to make ourselves fit to be in relationship and fit to be in community. Of bringing an authentic, compassionate, empathic, listening self to our relationships and to the communities that we participate in. This is hard work, and it's new, even thinking that we have to develop relationship skills, make ourselves fit for community. 50 years ago, this was not a conversation we would have been having. It's brand new, and it's tough slogging. And this is where a lot of justice and peace groups and NGOs and faith groups, they fall apart because they don't attend to this cultural or collective dimension of peace. Because they haven't worked at what it means to be in authentic relationship as you're trying to change the system. So this is a really important, this is about building the culture of a congregation from the we space. This relational integrity is a key dimension of peacemaking. Without this dimension of peace, peace is not sustainable because it lacks the bond of human love. It's a big part of what peace is. And then, of course, there is the peace that we've mostly been singing about this morning, and when I sang with the children, this inner peace that comes from a number of different practices. One of them certainly would be meditation and contemplation, learning to control our neuronal wiring in our brains that are just monkey mind. There's no peace if we're not able to manage our brain activity. This is the inside of our personal selves. Peace at this level also means getting to a place of deep self-acceptance, accepting where we're at, not beating up on ourselves all the time. So you might be involved in a Buddhist practice of mindfulness, learning to just notice your lives. Notice the highs and the lows as they come and go, and begin to identify with the part of you that's noticing all of this, instead of with this crazy stuff that's going on in your life. But cultivating a calm mind, and this is really important, and it's really hard work, but it's not, from this perspective or from this quadrant of the inside of ourself, it's not the only work associated with peacemaking. And this is the dimension that's often missed. It's also about being in right relationship with a blessed unrest. And that is the impulse to evolve, of realizing that we are an expression of an evolving universe. And this involves a lot of unrest, a lot of turbulence. Because we're going to open, when we're in this impulse, to as many different perspectives and to as many different stages and levels of consciousness as we can. And the work of integrating all of that information is a kind of blessed unrest. We're involved in an evolutionary journey. It's not just about calming ourselves down. It's not just about our being, it's also about our becoming. So this is a work of peace. And we got to find a rhythm somehow between these two poles of cultivating our sense of being at rest and this blessed unrest of becoming. Finding a rhythm in there. And then there's looking at peace from the perspective of the exterior of the individual, which is our behavior. It's like how we live in the world. It's actually practicing this. Walking the talk. And it requires practice. The first thing we do when someone tells us they're a peacemaker or they're working for peace is we immediately do what? We look at their life. Are they walking their talk? We examine their behavior. Does she really exhibit inner peace? Is he working on his own evolution? Is he growing spiritually? Is she really authentic and empathic? Can she actually listen? Has she done her own psychological work? Is she talking about, or is he talking about, his love of the planet and driving around in a Hummer? Does she talk about justice but remain silent in the face of injustice? So this is peace from that perspective, or that quadrant. Here's where my second sermon is going to start. You'll be relieved to know I'm not going to preach it. But this is just the beginning. You get a sense of the complexity of this peace that passes all understanding. Because peace also arises, the meaning of peace also arises within the context of stages of development, or stages or levels of consciousness. And it means something completely different. We can be in a room of people here and we'll be at different stages or levels of consciousness, and peace is going to mean something, I guarantee it, completely different to all of us. I'm not going to go into that sermon. You can pick the sermon up afterwards. I will just say, when we look at peace from our own tradition, we look to Jesus, who had a core metaphor that for him captured all of these perspectives and all of these dimensions of peace, which he called the kingdom, or the kingdom of God. It's what the world would be like, what our lives would be like, what our community would be like, what our relationships would be like if God reigned, if Spirit reigned. And he called that the kingdom, or the kingdom of God. And this is a realm which manifests the essential unity of all that is. A unity that encompasses and celebrates wild diversity. The kingdom of God is a story we tell ourselves that helps us to know that we all belong in this universe, that we are kin. Essentially, everything and everybody is kin. The kingdom of God is a house of hospitality that tells us that there is a room that is safe enough and large enough and clean enough for everything and everybody to have their own room, their own space. There's room enough for all in this kingdom. It is dynamic. It is not static. It's a process as much as it is a static realm. It's a movement of the Spirit. The way that the divine reigns in the cosmos as the push and the pull of the possible. And finally, as Jesus said, it is both within us and among us. In other words, it's already always present. We just need to wake up to it. And yet there's a dimension of it that we still need to realize, and that's what we're about as a church, realizing the kingdom of God, this peace that passes all understanding. After the service, we're going to go through an exciting little ritual together. We're going to walk together, everyone who wants to, over to the Center for Peace to unveil a peace flag. We're going to go out these doors, down Burrard, up 16th, and then we're going to unveil a new peace flag. We could call this a peace march, and that would be fine. Great history of peace marching, but you see how that peace march arises within a particular worldview? Or we could call it a mindfulness walk for peace. It arises from within another worldview. But whatever you want to call it, as you make your way, you might want to ask yourself, at this moment in my life, from my preferred perspective or quadrant, what is my work of peace? What am I contributing to the piece of the puzzle that is peacemaking? What am I committed to revealing and realizing about the kingdom of God? May it be so.